This trip really made me realize how much New York has shaped me 10 years ago when I was here. It's Lydia here. So I used to live in New York 10 years ago from 2013 to 2014. And this time I came back to New York almost 2 weeks ago for the New York Climate Week. This trip really made me realize how much New York has shaped me 10 years ago when I was here in my early 20s. A lot of my friends has been asking me, what do you think of New York? What has changed? I didn't come to full realization how much New York has shaped me as a person for me to navigate a lot of ups and downs, and how do I navigate my career in Hong Kong and in London and in different environments. And so in this video, I just want to share 5 lessons that I have learned in New York that has shaped who I am, and hopefully that resonate with you. And also at the end of the video, if you stick around, I will share one tip that is very helpful for all of those people who are looking for a space to work around the very busy Manhattan area. The secret is not the coffee shop, but stick around, stick to the very end of the video and you'll find out. Lesson number 1 that I learned in New York is you can be who you are, and it's good to be different. And when I first came here, because of my upbringing in China and as a Chinese, I've learned as a kid that it's always good to follow the rules. It's always also good to listen to other people's opinion. Of course, now we still need to take other people's advice, but being in New York really has changed the way that I see how you are allowed to be different, and it's also celebrated to be unique in a way, in your own way. I remember there's many times when I came here, I was afraid of being seen different, but actually I come to the realization that actually being different is where my value is, and that's really helped me in a lot of ways after I moved to somewhere else. On the second day when I came back, I went to this soul cycle class, and then the cycling instructor, he said, it's not necessary to be ordinary because it's a place that celebrates extraordinary. That really hit me because I feel like I need to hear that. A lot of the times when we're in our day-to-day, maybe there's not enough people remind us that it's good to be ourselves because there's only one of us. So we are different and beautiful in our own way, and we should celebrate who we are as a person. And that's the reason why we have so many of us, the 8 billion of us on Earth, and we all have our own value. We don't have to follow everything and conform to what the society look and say about who we are. As long as we can find out who we are and stick to what we hold as valuable, we'll find our spot. So that's lesson number 1. Being different actually can give you an edge. Lesson number 2 is be confident in yourself. 10 years ago, I wasn't who I am today. I'm definitely not even as 10% as how confident I am today. Being in New York definitely put me in a more difficult situation back then, because here you have everyone, all the best of the best people will come to New York, find their own opportunities, and you remember that song, if you make it in New York, you make it everywhere. At the time in 2013, I don't feel confident in myself. Today I was having a lunch with one of my mentors at the time. He interviewed me for an internship opportunity, and I was laughing at myself. I remember this anecdote with him because I said, do you remember at the time when you interviewed me and you asked me to wait in the meeting room for the next person to come to interview me, and I just left after several minutes? I remember that vividly because I thought I didn't do well enough in that interview, and also I didn't even pay attention what he said. I just feel like, oh, he left. And then I wait for maybe at 1 minute. I was like, okay, then it's the end of the interview. I fell dramatically, so I just left. But you know what's funny? After several days, the HR actually called me and she's like, oh, we actually like you, so we wanted to invite you back for another interview. He's like, yeah, I remember. I thought I didn't do anything that's like scaring you away. So a lot of times those not confident situations actually is just in our own head. So what I have learned in there is we need to be confident as who we are because no one has all the answers. And this time when I come back for the climate week, a lot of the times people have shared, including very successful and high power people, they share the same thing about how we can solve the climate crisis. This one sentence has been shared again and again. We're flying a plane while designing it. So I think just a reminder of everyone is swinging it at all times, and what we can do to make ourselves confident is to make sure that we try our best. And that's the energy that New York actually brought me. No matter where I live, the other times I was living in Hong Kong, in London, I always reminded myself, as long as I try hard enough, there will be something for me. But lesson number 2. So lesson number 3, after you build your confidence, what should you do? Especially after I worked for so long, I realized that it's not that much about what you know, but more about who you know. So after you build up your confidence or on your way to build confidence, it's very important to use it, which is to network as much as you can. And the way that I mentioned network here is not about in the traditional setting of going to some kind of conferences or at work, those type of, when you think of it as energy draining networking. Actually, I think of every interaction in life as a networking opportunity, because in places like New York, it actually reminded me that all the interactions can lead to something else. You never know who's sitting next to you in a cafe. Maybe that's somebody who can give you another connection, then you can eventually get a job. And so it's very important to seek out opportunities to even practice the new gain confidence. And we are never born perfect, right? Like if you don't practice how you tell your own story, how you find out who you are, it's very difficult to even maintain the confidence. But the more people you talk to, the more people you know, the better that you'll be able to maintain that confidence. Especially in the places like New York, everyone come with their own set of story and backgrounds and also connections. That's the melting pot and the beauty of New York. So use that. I always remind myself no matter where I go. So be open to meet people in genuine settings, not just in professional. Sometimes those kind of connections are the best type of connections that can last for life, and that can usually lead to more meaningful connections than ever before. And maintain those connections and relationships is also very important. And lesson number 4 is something just similar to New York also applies to ourselves too, which is adaptability is key. Last week, I was at a coffee shop. I was talking to 2 girls who moved here. They were best friends, and one of them moved here 7 years ago. The other one moved here just a year ago. Because I left 10 years ago, right? So I asked one of the girls, what do you think of New York? What has changed? That was a question a lot of my friends asked me too. And she said, I think New York is the same, but New York is always changing. Same rules and lessons apply to ourselves and life in general, because I think of every one of us, we are all the same person as we are. Like we always have our inner child that's the same kind, curious child that living in our heart with the 8-year-old version of ourselves. But we are also always changing. We adapt to different environments. We talk to different people and absorb the best for us to evolve to our new self. And that's what New York resembles as well. Being able to adapt to the environment and get ready for any change in life is very important. There's countless uncertainty in life, but because of, I think the way that New York shaped me of its ever-changing nature really helps me to embrace all the uncertainties. So lesson number 5 is very relevant to adaptability, which is keep moving. I think one of the beauty of New York is it never stops. I've heard a lot of stories about how New York is different during the pandemic, how everyone is gone. It's very sad to see New York in that way. I can totally relate it to it. The last time I visited New York was after the pandemic. I would say New York looked even better in my eyes. People are still friendly to me, and also there's more facilities. I even feel like it's quieter than before, and of course there's always the downside of being as a huge metropolitan city, but New York is always becoming its best self, and that's the lesson I take it from it. Is even though me as a person, I've been through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of rejections in life, a lot of the times I don't know what to do, but I've always come back, and I've always found a way to make myself proud of myself looking back. So I think that's something that I learned from New York, and that's lesson number 5. Keep moving forward, even when things are tough. If you keep moving forward, it will take us all the way to the end of the tunnel and see the light. So that's the 5 lessons that I want to share with you today about New York. If you're still watching, thank you so much. One last tip that I can give it to you as someone who used to live here, and thankfully I still have friends who give me a lot of tips how Actually, these days, I'm trying to look for coffee shop everywhere. This afternoon, I went to some coffee shops that are either full of people or there's no Wi-Fi. They don't have a restaurant that you can even go use it if you want to just stay there for several hours. What can you do, right? Because it's Manhattan. Everything is expensive. The space is very, very valuable for everyone. But I realized even in Midtown Manhattan, in somewhere near Bryant Park or Fifth Avenue, there's always public library. So last time I was in Bryant Park, and my friend said that there's New York Public Library is new, and they got free Wi-Fi, they have restrooms, and you can also get some water. And if you walked in there, it's actually people are just working or reading books. There's actually a perfect environment for you to do some kind of work. Maybe it's a little bit difficult if you want to take calls, but this afternoon I was so fed up with the coffee shop that I was staying in, and it's so loud and noisy. So I ended up searching New York Public Library. I was just like, let me see if there's anything next to me. So there's one, smaller ones, and it's just across the street of the Museum of Modern Art, and that's in a very nice neighborhood. They have this very modern and minimalist design library, and I just went there and spent some time. And let me just do a live search about New York Public Library. Let's see. So there's multiple locations here. All of them are public libraries. So I think if you couldn't find anything else and you really need a space and a place to, like in Midtown Manhattan especially, you want to get something done quickly, I would recommend, and that's a secret of today's tip about where you can find a place to work. If you're working nomadically for a few days, or you just want to find somewhere to read a book in Midtown Manhattan to stay away from the hustling and bustling of the city, go to the New York Public Library. And yeah, thank you so much for watching until the end of this video. So these are just the 5 lessons that this city has shaped me. I'm forever grateful for the experience that I had 10 years ago. It has given me more confidence than I realized. And if you have any stories, personal stories, or any other cities that has shaped you in the way that New York has done to me, share in the comment down below, and I would love to hear your story. And if you like this video, but you find the advice helpful, please share it with your friends and family. And really, really appreciate your support. I'll see you next time. Bye.